Welcome to the Female Founded Series podcast. I'm Yasmin, your host. Today we are joining with a lovely guest, a female entrepreneur. She is Jesmine Tan, the co-founder and COO of Applecrumby, a homegrown Malaysian baby brand that we all love. I am sure you've heard about it. And today, let's hear about her founder story. And I'm so excited to share with you guys as well the things that we're going to touch base on. And I know that we will be going through a lot of insights and learning along the way. Hi, Jesmine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, Yasmin.
Okay, so let's start with the very beginning, okay? Take us where it all started. So you co-founded Applecrumby with your husband, Sean Tan, right? And now you're the COO as well. Mm-hmm. So your husband is the COO of Applecrumby. Right. So share with us what sparked the idea of Applecrumby.
Well, it was 13 years ago when we came up with the idea of starting an e-commerce platform that sells premium, safe, natural and organic baby essentials. We started it back then. I mean, obviously, when anyone starts a venture, they don't think too much. They probably go into it a little bit naively. So a lot of things that we know today, thank goodness we didn't know back then. Otherwise, we would have been paralyzed and not have started it all.
Yeah.
But the whole idea behind it is because we actually caught a gap in the market, in the baby industry. And it was that safe, natural and organic baby essentials were very much devoid at the time. And we wanted to fill that gap because we had a daughter. Our daughter was 1 year old back then. And we realized that we couldn't find such products in the market easily. And therefore we thought, hey, if we were looking for such products, then surely there are other parents doing the same.
Yeah.
And then we thought, why not we be the first to do it? And it was just really around that idea that we started the whole thing.
That's amazing. It's like from your own personal story, right? So it's really like all about like, hey, I can't get access to the products that I want. Why don't I create it myself?
Yes.
Because I'm sure there's a demand for it. Because me, myself, as a parent, it's like I need the products, but it's not accessible to me. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. So you're not just a co-founder, you're a mom, you're a COO. How did your kind of like your motherhood journey shaped on building Applecrumby at that time? Because you mentioned that your daughter is about 1 year old. Mm-hmm. How did that like align with each other?
I guess it was really just the need of wanting to ensure that she got the best of whatever there was to offer. And I think when I say the best, it wasn't necessarily, we weren't looking for necessarily expensive products. We just wanted things that were free of harsh chemicals. It's really as simple as that. And we read up a lot on what it could do to baby's skin, baby's overall health, and wellness, and we just couldn't find those products. And I think it was that, that instinct that kicked in that, hey, if, I wanted that for my baby, then surely there are a lot of other moms who are actually trying to look for such things. And, I just really wanted to fill that gap and also basically create something that was not there for parents who are truly looking for such, quality essentials for their babies. So it was really just the motherly instinct, the need to have the best for my baby that it basically made me do this. It was really as simple as that.
That's amazing. Now, going back to that, right? Because like I'm sure like you as a mom, you want the best for your baby. And it is like a very competitive industry. It's not just something like, okay, we come up with the idea and then we go in and then like it's a success, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about that because the baby care industry, it is so competitive at that time, right? And I'm sure it is still now. But going into the baby care industry, I'm sure there were a lot of challenges, especially if you are a new player and then you are like competing with like the big players at that time. And before that, I want to ask you, what was your first product for Applecrumby when you first launched?
We actually started with the baby wipes segment. So it was roughly about 3 months before our diapers actually were launched. So yeah, those two were actually the biggest categories that we went straight into. A little bit naively, I just want to emphasize, because the diaper industry is huge. And
it is.
And who were the big players at the time? You have like just a handful, maybe 4 to 5 at most. And then we went in thinking that we could fight these guys. So yeah, and
That's amazing.
Well, the saving grace is that back then, you're talking about 13 years ago, and back then I think the market was less noisy. So there was less competition from smaller companies, smaller startups, I should say. I mean, there were big players, but then the big players have been around for a very long time. And so their SOPs, their market share, everything has already been established for a very long time. And so they knew exactly what they were doing. And what they didn't probably anticipate is that smaller players can come into this field to try to basically change the direction of things and disrupt a little bit.
Yeah,
and that was
definitely.
essentially what we did without knowing it at the time. We really just wanted great products, right? And I remember when we started our chlorine-free diapers, our first customers would ask us like, "What is this chlorine-free diaper? Like, my baby doesn't swim, so what is this chlorine-free diaper?" And we actually had to explain to them a lot at the time the effects of chlorine on baby's skin.
And probably parents didn't even know that there was chlorine in the diapers.
No,
that
they
were
didn't.
using.
They didn't. I would have to say that back then it was us trying, to climb that mountain and basically educate moms, dads, basically consumers on why we're doing this. It was an uphill battle for sure. But, fast forward 13 years later, I think a lot of consumers already know what this chlorine-free thing is about. And we're pretty proud of it, that we were kind of like the catalyst behind it all. We were the first movers.
Yeah, you were like the ones that spent the first few years educating over and over again about what are the benefits and all that,
yes,
right?
That's right.
And the side effects. So let's touch on that. What were the strategies, perhaps? Like you mentioned, a lot of educating, right? A lot of putting awareness out there, what they should do and not do when it comes to diapers or wipes and all that. So what were the strategies that helped you kind of stand out from the big players when you were going into the market and really build the trust among parents? Because having the trust is definitely not easy, right? Especially because for us, we want to give the best to our babies. And we need the trust in order for them to kind of convert them or purchase our products. So what were your strategies?
We basically were very much in touch with our customers. We did everything from the ground up. So I'm not afraid to say that I was literally answering customers on my own, on social media, on emails. I basically took a lot of their feedback into consideration, be it on product quality or be it on packaging, colors, design, and literally made polls and asked them, which would you prefer, A or B? And we actually made products based on their feedback. And I think it was through this inclusion of their feedback that actually gave them a lot of trust that, hey, we are here because we hear you. We are here because we know what you're telling us and we hear what you're needing from us. And we're not one of the big boys, but we're here talking to you and we're real. And we as parents, we know what we want for our baby as well. And we're coming from that angle that, hey, I'm not just an entrepreneur, but I'm a mom first and foremost. And I'm here to create something for my baby. And I think that along the way, it might just be something that you want as well. And I'm asking you if you need it. And I think it was from that angle that we actually caught on a lot of traction. Being a new startup, you have no budget for marketing. And there's no such thing as advertising when you have no budget. And basically, whatever marketing and advertising was really just word of mouth. And I think that was super powerful because it wasn't us telling the world that our products were great. It's actually moms telling moms that they love our products.
Yeah, everything I'm pretty sure was organic, right?
It was extremely organic. We literally were budgetless.
Yeah. And that's the most powerful thing. And I think building that foundation is something I feel every successful startups go through that. And I feel like that is a pattern. It's just even if you don't have the budget, you kind of have to make it work, right? And if it has to be organic, if it takes a lot more time, if it takes a lot more effort, we got to do it.
And it also takes a lot of creativity when you don't have the budget. You just have to find ways to make things work. Yeah, so I think a lot in that sense, we were very blessed that we started that way because it made us really think of the decisions that we were making. We were extremely creative to make things work because every error is really exacerbated by, 100-fold when you don't have money back then, So everything has to be we have to think properly before we act.
Yeah, every decision needs to be
Correct.
properly done,
Yes.
right? Okay, great. So speaking of that, I'm sure there was a particular moment where you're just okay, finally, this brand is finally taking off, So, do you remember that kind of moment that you had? What was it like?
Yes, it's very clear. That was back in 2016, in October, and that's really as clear
I
as
like
it
how
is,
you're
right?
so specific
Yeah.
with the month.
So we started with our diapers, and as I mentioned, we started with wipes first. But wipes being a smaller category, we didn't see that immediate traction. But with the diapers, we took it in. I still remember we took in one small little container. And we were like, oh, okay, we need to set out the post to post on Facebook at the time and Instagram. We need to have this, advertisement and whatnot. And we were like trying to get ready. But then the container was still on its way to our shores. And we thought, hey, let's open it up for pre-order. And we did that. And then it got sold out in 4 days.
That's a good move.
And we were like, okay, our container is still not in our warehouse and we're sold out. I'm like, so now we have another problem, and the next problem is how do we replenish? Because you're talking about diapers, right? People can't wait for like another 3 months to replenish diapers. So it was at that time that I thought that, hey, we actually have created that trust in a lot of customers without knowing it through selling third-party brands initially. The way we approach things, the way we were constantly on the ground, getting feedback and whatnot, we actually got that trust a lot. And so when we launched our own private label, it just kind of took off. Yeah.
Amazing. And I must say, I think you did amazing with the products as well. And of course, the packaging. I think the packaging really makes everything stand out, and it shows how great the product is as well. And I think that's really important. Like you mentioned about creativity, right? I think creativity plays a huge part of the company, the brand, right? So speaking of creativity, who is the creative brain behind the brand?
The packaging or the brand itself?
The brand itself as a whole.
Well, we won't be here if it weren't for our team for sure. So we have so many great guys basically every day talking about sales strategies, about packaging designs, about branding, messaging. Every little thing we debate. On certain days we have good days, on certain days we don't agree, but we always come to some kind of consensus that hey, we have to agree to disagree, even though we're not 100% on board. Let's just try it, and we all learn through our experiences, and we know what to do and what not to do. Because the best way of learning is really through mistakes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think at the end of the day, when I say creativity, it really just means that okay, how do we best approach things if we don't always want to throw money at things, because we started that way when we had to bootstrap, and we never had that opportunity or that luxury to say let's just solve things with money. It was never there, and we always had to think of ways to basically make things work if you have to bootstrap. And that mentality from day one is still here today. So, and if you come to our office, you will see that everybody is still acting like we've got no money, but you see, that's the mindset we're trying to create, which is that day one mindset that regardless of how big or how popular you get, you cannot rest on your laurels, because anytime, your competitor can just come along when you least expect it.
Yeah. So be resourceful in anything that you do.
Yes.
Amazing. Now, I want to talk about a little bit more on working with your husband, because I myself, we're working with my husband as well, and there are days, I'm not going to lie, there are days when, you just want to kill each other, but there are days that is just like a team, right? Like we unite and go towards the mission and the goals that we set together. So you co-founded Applecrumby with your husband, Yasmin Tan. What is it like to build the business with your life partner and at the same time a business partner together?
I have to be honest that a lot of the times the lines are blurred. Like you don't know when it is time to talk about work and when it's not time to talk about work. Like any time of the day you have something work to talk about, you just talk about it. It doesn't matter if it's breakfast on a Sunday. It doesn't matter if you're out on a date night. It doesn't matter at all. And I think that in that sense, a lot of people would think that isn't that hard to do. But the fact is that I've been sort of working with my husband ever since my 20s. Like I've been running businesses my whole life, and I've gotten used to it. And we have come to this, the way we work is we don't clash simply because he does different components of the business and I do different things. And so a lot of times it's more like, hey, this is my scope and these are my ideas, but what do you think? And then he would give us, he would give me ideas and suggestions and be like, oh, okay, it's either it sucks or it's great. If it's great, I'll take it. If it sucks, I'll be like, no, thank you. But other than that, we respect, each other's scope, because I am not a master in his domain and neither is he in mine. And in that way, it actually works somehow.
Yeah.
And I actually find it a blessing that I get to spend so much time with him.
Yeah, exactly, right? I love it. People are always like, I don't work well with my husband and I will never work with my spouse. But I'm like, it's the best thing because you get to spend more time.
Yes, for sure. Because otherwise, you come home all late and you'll be tired and you won't get to see your husband if you don't.
I agree. And I think that it creates way much more of a stronger bond together. Now, speaking of the roles that you mentioned, right? So kind of staying in your lane and not disturbing your husband's role, right? So what roles do you hold and what does he do?
He takes care of a lot of the legal stuff, a lot of the finances, HR for sure, that's his domain. Basically, the entire setup of the organization, how it should be run and things like that. But I take care of a lot of the operational needs, the marketing, the branding, the products. That's really where my interest lies. I'm a very strategic person and I get very excited when new ideas pop up and they look like they could work. And those are the things that really get me up in the morning. And those are the things that actually also keep me up at night as well. So so he is all right with taking care of things behind the scenes, I would say. And that's why I really do appreciate that not a lot of people will want to do things behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But he loves that, to keep things in check. And I'm actually not a limelight person. I really am not. But the thing is that I just love to do the strategy part. And that's usually the part where they call me, to come in for podcasts like this.
Exactly.
I don't have a choice.
Exactly.
But really, my interest and my passion is really just to come up with ideas and suggestions on how to, make a business work. And that's,
So with that role as the COO, how do you keep things running and always finding great ideas? What is that one thing that you do that is kind of a non-negotiable for you?
I think it's important not to just be so steeped in your own ideas that you don't listen to others. So I've always maintained that from day one, even when we were a much smaller company, that my ideas can't be the one and only thing that will work, and it can't be the best, because if everything I think of is the best, then why do I need to hire anyone? I might as well be the be-all and end-all to the business. And I love it when people actually challenge me with their ideas and suggestions, because I love to hear from smart people.
Yeah.
And I love to hear that you think you have a better idea than me. So those are the things that actually keep things running, simply because of the fact that I'm extremely open to what my team tells me. And a lot of the times I think they can tell you, I execute on them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that I do well as a boss, a CEO and a founder, is that I love taking their ideas and I do actually execute them.
Amazing. And I'm sure that on a day-to-day basis, there are a lot of problems that you need to solve, especially as a leader in the company. There are a lot of challenges that you go through, and I want to talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about...
This could be never ending though.
I know, right? So now you gotta think, okay, what are the hardest lessons or challenges that I overcome in the company? But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of it. Maybe pick a few that
a few challenges. Well, I think people is something that you would have to deal with no matter how small or big you get. And the larger you get, the more complicated it gets.
Would you say people, is it customers or your team members?
I think it's more like managing your team members, because they all come with so many different personalities, experiences, ideas, and also expectations. And I think in the beginning, it was more like, let's just focus on work and the business itself. And then as you grow larger and larger, you realize that, your role actually changes so much. And it is actually now the team's role where they take care of the business. And you as the founder or the co-founder, you tend to want to make sure that their needs are met.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think managing people is one of the greatest challenge of running any business, and I think a lot of business owners out there will tell you that as well. Another thing is probably the understanding of how, the daily things, like understanding your numbers, understanding what cash flow means, understanding what it means to be profitable, the differences between being profitable and being cash flow positive. All these things you generally don't know at the start of the business, and you think that it's as simple as I buy it at this cost, I sell it at this price, and what can go wrong?
Yeah,
but
there's more to that.
There's more to that, and over time you realize that, hey, on paper everything looks great, but then why are we in a cash flow crunch? And then you realize that there are a lot more components that you have to consider. So I think that understanding the technical aspects of the finances is extremely important, and that is definitely a challenge that all business owners go through.
Yeah. Even though we hire I don't know, like a financial person or like a CFO in the company, I think as the founder yourself, you kind of need to understand exactly what's happening in the business when it comes to the numbers, what's working and what's not working, and then kind of re-strategize from there, right?
Correct. I think it is fine if you actually are, if you don't come from an accounting background or a finance background, it's fine. You don't have to know how to run your full sets of accounts by yourself. It's all right to have people who are better than you. But I don't think it's excusable to not know your numbers at all and to not look into, your numbers and your lines, your financial lines at all. I think that is extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that, your company may be in trouble and you don't actually know it until it actually hits you, and it could be too late at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you have to know what you don't know, right? I 100% agree. Now, let's talk about something a little bit more interesting. I think we were talking about it before the podcast was recorded, was about how brutal is the baby market, right? Because it's huge. Big players, tight margins, high expectations, especially from the customers, basically parents for you, right? Now, how did you stay resilient through all of that, going through everything?
I think one of the biggest things that we go through as founders is sometimes we are unable to dissociate ourselves from, whatever the business faces, from having interpreted as is targeted as an individual thing.
Yeah.
We are not able to think of it as, okay, this is a business thing, there's nothing personal, it's not a personal attack on you as a founder. And I think I still go through those days where if there's a challenge, whatever it is, it's like a testament of me not doing well enough.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so it is an ongoing thing, whatever the problem may be, whether you're out of stocks, for example, it's I didn't look into this properly, I'm not good enough. And it's a constant struggle, to be honest. So everything that the business goes through, you do question yourself, did I do something wrong? Am I not good enough in this? Do I need some help?
Because you kind of hold that responsibility. But I think the beauty of it is that it kind of give you that reminder, okay, we gotta step up our game, right? Because as founders and leaders, we have to keep evolving all the time. And in terms of growing ourselves, right?
Yeah, for sure. But the funny thing is that, I'm not sure about other founders, but for myself, I never once thought that we are all that. I never once thought that we are there and I can be complacent. That thought never crosses my mind. I'm constantly paranoid. Will the bomb drop tomorrow?
I can relate.
I don't know what can go wrong tomorrow, and I'm constantly in that state of mind where I've got to be really on guard. So it gets very stressful. But at the same time, that's why having a great team does help, right? Because they actually calm you down and they tell you that, hey, I'm taking care of things. You just have to think of these things. You don't have to worry about this part because we know what we're doing too. So I think, and that's the reason why Sean and myself, we do make it a point to be one of the bosses out there who can be proud of the way we treat our team members.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing that I constantly tell people is that I don't want to be a boss who sucks. Like, I want to be known as a good boss, and I want my people to tell me that, you know, you're a good boss and I've never seen a boss like you. I think that makes me the proudest.
Yeah.
And when they're happy, they will support us in return too.
Yeah. It's really the bigger mission. Like thinking big at the same time, right? It's
And
not,
also,
yeah.
you know, we want to make them feel that we care for them and that we want to take care of their future as well.
Yeah.
So like, failing is really not an option in Applecrumby because I think failure just means that I let my team down.
Yeah.
You know, well, there'll be a lot of customers hopefully who are disappointed if we fail. But at the same time, I do think that would also mean that my team would actually be let down. And that's actually one of my biggest fears is that if I start this business, it better succeed because I don't want to let my team down. Yeah.
I love your leadership style because I think it goes towards like how the modern way of like running a business, right? Because like in like I would say like maybe like 20 years ago, maybe like a few decades, it's different approach when it comes to leadership and running a business, right? Especially like starting out. And like for you, your leadership style is really about like taking care of your people so that they are able to do a great job of what they do, that you hire them for, so that you reach to that specific goal that you want for Applecrumby to be. Right? So how did you develop this kind of leadership approach?
I don't really know actually. It's really just instinctual. Like I've always
Very
been
intentional?
that way. Yes, I've always been that way. A lot of times I do, and it sounds very cliche, but I do put a lot of their needs before mine, before Sean's and mine. And I think it's because of the belief that if my people are happy, I would be happy in return. But I can't say the same, you know, if it's vice versa. And with that, I do feel that if they're happy, then my customers will be happy too, because then they'll be doing a good job. Customers will feel that they are heard, and whatever problems they have, whether it's their parcel not arriving on time or whatever, you know, someone is there to assist them. I always think that if your people are happy, your customers will be happy, your shareholders will be happy, and then the bosses will be happy. And that's like the easiest way to do things, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's like a domino effect.
Yes.
Great. So share with us. I'm kind of like interested to know like your day-to-day routine as a COO in the company. I'm sure like there are a million things that you do right when it comes to running the company, or else like Applecrumby wouldn't be where it is today, right? So share with us, what does your day-to-day look like as a COO of Applecrumby?
I start my day extremely early.
How early?
But that's partly because my daughter goes to school, right? So I got no
Oh,
choice
okay,
but to
yeah.
wake up extremely early. So, I mean, I'm up by 6 plus is my latest. I get up
early.
before my alarm clock even rings. But that's because, I mean, I would get up earlier if I don't go to sleep that late. I sleep like past 1 a.m.
That's
on
late.
a daily
Wow.
basis.
How
like,
do you function?
I don't really know, but I think it's a lot of it is adrenaline.
Okay.
So yeah, I do sleep extremely late because I go out on a lot of meetings and I have a lot of these chats, even with my own team members and whatnot. And I do find that a lot of the operational work, I can only attend to it like after work hours. So it's probably like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. onwards, and I'll just sit there at my dining table or at my study table and I will continuously do, you know, all my work until about 12 to 1 a.m. And it's really just like that. Like every day is like that. So I actually tend to make myself go out on Saturdays because I know that if I stay at home, my
You'll be on your
laptop is with me.
Yeah.
Like I would just be doing work. And I think my team can see a lot of my work and whatnot is actually done on Sundays. Like I will email and I will give them summaries of whatever. And it's usually like Sundays as well. So, but essentially my day-to-day is really just filled with work. But then I do know that I'm a mother as well. And I definitely have to make sure that my child is taken care of as well. So it is a constant struggle for sure. And sometimes you're so stressed and you know that there are problems that you have to solve, but you have to consciously tell yourself to put it down because otherwise your child may not understand. She's still very young and she might think otherwise that you are not making time for her or that work is more important. So it's a constant struggle that I have to basically, and it's really difficult when you're so busy and you've got things to do and you just have to like shut your laptop and let's go play a board game with your daughter, for example.
Yeah.
So it's a conscious effort to make things balanced. Yeah.
That's great because I totally relate to that. I'm sure a lot of founders as well relate to that, mompreneurs especially. Now, before we go, I want to know what's next for Applecrumby.
What's next for
Yeah, what's
Applecrumby?
next? We want to know as parents.
Well, we've got a lot of interesting products in the pipeline for sure. And it makes me really excited. I joke that I get so excited to get these samples in the mailbox as opposed to getting what I bought from Shopee, right? I don't really care whether my stuff from Shopee arrives, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, my samples arrive, and people will be like, why are you so excited over diaper samples again? So there are a lot of interesting products in the pipeline that we are excited to share with our customers. My team is very excited as well. But overall, I think generally we just look forward to creating a lot of good memories with our customers. I do want them to remember Applecrumby as the brand who started from nothing.
Yeah.
Just two parents with a very small team. We're still a small team despite the fact that we are in 11 countries. And I do want them to know that it was all really started from the heart, that we just wanted to make a difference in the baby industry. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people say that, disruption this, disruption that. But to me, disruption can only happen if people embrace your products.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you can't go out and say, I want to disrupt the world, but if nobody listens to your product and don't care about your services, then how are you ever going to disrupt anything? Yeah. And today I'm extremely proud that we've kind of changed the landscape of the baby industry a little bit when we came out and said that, hey, no more chemicals and chlorine in baby products, and we just brazenly went into the world and did that, not knowing what we were going to face for the next 13 years or more. But I'm glad that we did that.
Yeah. You've done amazing.
Thank
the
you
whole
so
team
much.
has done amazing. And I know that a big part of Applecrumby is your community of parents, right? The community that you've built they're all very close to each other, especially when it comes to resonating with or even building relationship through being a parent, being a mom, right? And that's amazing because I don't see a lot of brands that actually create a strong community of parents. Yeah, and you've done that well.
It's my team as well, I mean, my brand and marketing team, they're amazing. They came out with this entire fantastic idea. It's been 1.5 years into it, and today we've got, a couple of thousand moms in that community, and these are really active moms giving us ideas, attending our events, coming to support us during product launches. It's amazing, and we invited them to the Raya buffet as well. So I'm extremely excited that, my team thinks that way too, that they feel that engagement with actual real parents is extremely important. Like, we can't be seen as a brand who's just there to sell, like sales. Like, we have to show them that we know what you're going through, we care, and our products are really just here to make a little bit of your life, like a small part of your life, a little bit better, a little bit easier, that's all. But other than that, you are doing the heavy, weightlifting. You are the parents, and motherhood and fatherhood is extremely tough.
Yeah, and I think for Applecrumby, that has always been that way from the very beginning, right? Now, before we go, I always ask this question to every female founder that came on this podcast, and that is, if you have maybe one advice for female entrepreneurs or aspiring female founders who wants to start a business, who want to get into the entrepreneurship world, what advice do you have for them?
I don't want to paint a rosy picture just simply because it's tough, right? Being an entrepreneur is extremely tough. So it's not going to be like fun and games and rainbows
sunshine and rainbows
butterflies.
everywhere.
And it's not. It's extremely tough. And I think you have to be very resilient. And I think the one thing that you perhaps can look forward to is that no matter how hard things get, if you don't give up, the silver lining is there. And I've been through multiple valleys, trust me.
I'm sure.
And just because of the sheer fact that we did not give up, even though it looked as if we could at that time, then the silver lining just appeared. And I'm not even kidding. When that happened, it's like, oh my gosh, these things do happen. Like when you don't give up, they actually do show you that it exists. The silver lining is there. You just didn't find it hard enough. And so I think it's going to be tough, but if you don't give up, it will come around.
Yeah, it will all be worth it.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jasmine.
Thank you so much for having
coming on
me.
here. I think We got so much insights from you. And really, for me, the best way to learn is through people who have been there, done that, and actually share about all the lessons and how it all started and like the truth behind it, right? Because not everything is like glamorous.
It's not.
Right.
I don't even think glamorous is the word at all.
Yeah, but the beauty of
Yeah.
it is that really learning from the hardships and like seeing it bloom into like this beautiful brand that you've built
Thank
for
you so much.
Applecrumby. Amazing. Thank you, Jasmine.
Thank you so much, Yasmin.
All right, thank you so much for tuning in the Female Founded. Thank you so much for tuning in the Female Founded Series podcast. I'm Yasmin, your host. If you love this episode, this conversation that we had with Jesmine Tan, the co-founder and CEO of Applecrumby, be sure to follow us, leave us a comment, rate us all on Spotify, YouTube, Audio Plus, Apple Podcasts, and all that, okay? I'll see you in the next episode.